Welcome to the Explainer. In any training room, virtual or physical, there's one question that trumps all others. Today, we're not just going to ask that question, we're going to build a practical toolkit to answer it by diving into the core theories of what actually moves people to learn. So let's just get right to it. This is the problem, right? It's the thing that keeps every single one of us in L&D up at night. You can have the most beautiful slides, the most brilliant content, but if your audience is just staring blankly, what's the point? So how do we fix this? How do we get real, genuine engagement? Well, the answer starts with the word itself, motivation. It comes from the Latin word movere, which literally means to move. That's what it is. It's the internal engine, that psychological need, that little nudge inside us that says, hey, let's go do that. Understanding what moves people is our first tool. Okay, to build out our toolkit, we first need to understand the fundamental blueprints of what people want. These are called the content theories, and they all basically ask the same simple question. What are the things that get people out of bed in the morning? And of course, we've got to start with the OG, the big one, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've all seen this pyramid, right? The idea is that we're all trying to climb this ladder of needs. We start with the absolute basics, food, water, safety, and we can't really think about anything else until those are covered. Only then can we move up to belonging, feeling good about ourselves, and finally, reaching our full potential. So how does a psychologist's pyramid help us in a training session? Well, it maps directly. To get people to learn, we have to meet these needs right there in the room. For safety, that means creating a space where it's okay to ask a stupid question. For belonging, it means group work and collaboration. For esteem, it's about acknowledging a great comment. And for self-actualization, that's when you treat them like the experts they are, partners in their own learning journey. And listen, never, ever underestimate that esteem level, even with a room full of senior execs. There's this great story about a trainer who gave out little chocolates for good answers. A general manager didn't get one and loudly complained after the session. It sounds silly, right? A grown man upset about a piece of chocolate? But it wasn't about the candy. It was about recognition. It shows you just how powerful that need to feel valued really is. Now, Maslow wasn't the only person thinking about this stuff. Other folks built on his ideas. You've got Alderfer's ERG theory, which basically just simplifies Maslow's 5 levels into 3 buckets. Existence, your basic survival stuff, relatedness, connecting with others, and growth, your personal development. Then McClellan came along and said, look, it's really about 3 main drivers. People want to achieve, they want power or influence, and they want affiliation, to be liked. Then there's Frederick Hertzberg, and his idea was a total game changer. He said, hang on, the things that make us unhappy at work are completely different from the things that make us happy. On one side, you have hygiene factors, things like a decent salary or a computer that actually works. If you don't have them, you're miserable. But, and this is the key, getting them doesn't motivate you. It just stops you from being unhappy. True motivation comes from the other side, the motivators, like challenging work, getting recognized, and seeing opportunities to grow. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? It's brilliant. We think of happy and unhappy as 2 ends of the same stick. Hertzberg proved they're not. They're 2 completely separate scales. You can be perfectly not dissatisfied with your job, but also completely unmotivated. To really fire people up, you've got to focus on those true motivators. All right, so now we've got a handle on what motivates people, those core needs and drivers. So the next tool in our kit is about understanding the process. How does someone's brain actually decide, yeah, I'm going to try, versus, nah, not worth it? This is where Victor Vroom's expectancy theory comes in. It suggests that motivation is basically a super fast calculation that happens in our heads. It's a chain of 3 questions. First is expectancy. If I really put in the effort here, can I actually do what's being asked? Second is instrumentality. Okay, let's say I do it. Am I really going to get that reward they promised? And then the big one, valence. Do I even care about that reward? If the answer to any of those is no or maybe, the whole chain breaks. Motivation just evaporates. And that valence piece is why knowing your people is absolutely critical. It's not one size fits all. Imagine you've got 2 employees at IBM. For one person, a $1,000 bonus is the best thing ever. But for another, an all-expenses-paid trip they can take their family on, that's priceless. That trip has a way higher valence. A reward is only a motivator if the person you're giving it to actually finds it rewarding. Okay, we've got the what and the how of motivation. So, what do we do with all this? How do we take all this amazing theory and turn it into a simple, practical tool we can use to design better training? We'll say hello to the ARCS model. First up, A is for attention. You have to grab it and you have to hold it. You can do this with variety, with a shocking statistic, with a great story, but a little word of warning on humor. It can be tricky. A trainer once made a joke about Hitler during a session in Germany. Whoops. It did not go over well and he was taken off the project. So the key is to know your audience and get their attention for the right reasons.
Once you've got their attention, you have to establish relevance. Every single person in your session is silently asking, "What's in it for me?" You have to answer that question, and you have to do it fast. Show them how this new skill is going to make their job easier, get them a promotion, or solve a problem that's been driving them crazy. If they don't see the connection, they're gone.
Next is C for confidence. Remember Vroom's first question? Can I actually do this? This is where we make sure they believe the answer is a huge yes. We build their confidence with super clear objectives, by designing activities where they can get an early win, and by giving feedback that builds them up instead of tearing them down. And finally, we land on S for satisfaction. This is the payoff. This is what makes the learning feel good and makes it stick. It's not just about a certificate of completion. It's about giving them a chance to immediately use their new skills in a meaningful way and then acknowledging their success. That feeling of accomplishment is the ultimate reward. So the ARCS model is a fantastic, simple roadmap. But let's get even more practical. Let's talk about a few dead simple tactics you could literally use in a session tomorrow. Seriously, these are so easy to do. To grab attention, just stop sharing your screen for a minute, lean into the camera, and tell a quick personal story. For relevance, find the most experienced person in the room and ask them to share a war story about the topic. To build confidence, send a short article as pre-work so everyone starts with a baseline of knowledge. And for satisfaction, end a module with a quick, fun quiz. It gives that little hit of, I got it. You know, when you take all these theories, Maslow, Herzberg, Vroom, and you boil them all down, it comes back to this one fundamental truth about being in a room with other human beings. Before they'll care about your content, they have to accept you. So a toolkit is only good if you open it up and use the tools. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What's one thing, just one, from the ARCS model that you're going to try in your very next session to better move your learners?